Hello dear students, this is Dr. Deepa Dubey, Associate Professor, Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law, IIT Kharagpur. The module on which I will discuss today is Unnatural Offence. The learning outcomes of this module are to make the learners understand the law relating to unnatural offence in India, to make the learners appreciate the genesis and development of the law, and 3. To make the students acquainted with the key issues arising in unnatural offences in contemporary times. A crime is considered as an act made punishable by the state. For a conduct to be considered criminal, it must deviate from the acceptable social norms and be regarded by the larger sections of society as antisocial, harmful, bad or immoral. Fuller maintained that sociologically speaking, a criminal statute is simply the formal embodiment of moral values of the dominant political group in society. It is the morality which finds reflection in the criminal statute. Unnatural offence as a crime comes in this category where the morality of the society labels the conduct as harmful, pernicious and immoral and thereby prohibited under the law. The legislative history of the subject indicates that the first records of sodomy as a crime at common law in England were chronicled in the Fletter 2090 and later in the Breton 1300. Both texts prescribed that sodomites should be burnt alive. Acts of sodomy later became penalized by hanging under the Buggery Act of 1533. However, the laws underwent a change. The English law was reformed in Britain by the Sexual Offences Act 1967, which decriminalized homosexuality and acts of sodomy between consenting adults pursuant to the report of the Wolfenden Committee. The Indian Penal Code, drafted by Lord Macaulay, was introduced in 1861 in British India, and the offence of unnatural carnal intercourse was included in Chapter 16 of the Indian Penal Code titled "Of Offences Affecting the Human Body." Unnatural offence. What is it all about? Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code 1860 deals with unnatural carnal intercourse and is intended to punish the offence of sodomy, buggery and bestiality. The essential ingredients to prove the offence are: 1. That the accused had carnal intercourse with a man, woman or animal. Next, that it was against the order of nature. Next, that it was done voluntarily. That there was penetration. Carnal intercourse against the order of nature. The term carnal means fleshly. Intercourse in Latin is intercursus, which signifies literally a running between, a connection. In its broadest sense, therefore, it refers to the carnal copulation by human beings with each other against nature or with a beast, in which sense it includes the crimes against nature, bestiality, buggery, cunnilingus and fellatio. In its narrower sense, it is the carnal copulation between two human beings per annus or by a human being in any manner with a beast. In 1884, the court was confronted with the case of a man who forced open a child's mouth and put his private parts and completed his lust. The court held that to constitute the offence of sodomy, the act must be in that part where sodomy is usually committed, and on that basis held that this act of oral intercourse was not an act criminalized under section 377. However, in 1908, a full bench of the Travancore High Court held that having connection with a person in the mouth was an offence under section 377 of the Penal Code. By 1914, the court noted in the much cited case of Kanu that the natural object of sexual intercourse is that there would be the possibility of conception of human beings, which in the case of oral intercourse is impossible. It then went on to define sexual intercourse as the temporary visitation of one organism by a member of the other organization for certain clearly defined and limited objects. The primary objective of the visiting organization is to obtain euphoria, but there is no intercourse unless the visiting member is enveloped at least partially by the visited organism. The decision in Kanu laid the parameters by which the section 377 came to be interpreted in the subsequent times. The object was to criminalize forms of behavior which were penetrative and which did not result in procreation. In subsequent years, the court have expanded the ambit of section 377. In 1968, the High Court was urged to decide as to whether manipulation and movement of the penis while being held by a minor boy in such a way as to create an orifice like thing for making the manipulated movement of insertion and withdrawal up to the point of ejaculation of semen comes within the sweep of unnatural carnal intercourse. The High Court went on to hold that the act in question will amount to an offence punishable under section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. In the instant case, the court expanded on the logic of Kanu to lay down the imitative test which laid down as under. What is important is whether there was an act of imitating the actual act of sexual intercourse or carnal intercourse. If it was an imitative act of sexual intercourse to appease his sex urge or the sexual appetite, it would be an unnatural offence punishable under section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. In 1969, the Kerala High Court was called upon to decide as to whether an act of inserting a male organ between the thighs kept together and tight amounts to an offence under the section. The High Court held the same in the affirmative. Somewhat in a similar manner, in Calvis Francis, that is Calvis Francis versus State of Orissa 1992, where the accused inserted his genital organs inside the mouth of a 6-year-old child, the Orissa High Court, relying on the previous decisions, concluded that section 377 is comprehensive enough to gulf any act like the alleged act of the accused and convicted him for the offence. Thus, there is a consistent view in this country, and it appears that any type of intercourse which is against the order of nature and where there is penetration, whether in a natural orifice or a created orifice within the human body of another, it would constitute an offence under section 377. The word voluntarily lays down the mens rea for the offence. The act of unnatural carnal intercourse must have been a voluntary act on the part of the accused. This indicates that the act should be an intentional one and not merely non-intentional or accidental. The word voluntarily has been defined in section 39 IPC as a person is said to cause an effect voluntarily when he causes it by means whereby he intended to cause it, or by means which at the time of employing those means he knew or had reason to believe to be likely to cause it. To penetrate means to enter or to pass through or force a way into or through. By virtue of the explanation appended to section 377, penetration, howsoever minimal it may be, is required to constitute the carnal intercourse. Even the slightest degree of penetration is enough for the purposes of the offence. Punishment. The punishment for the offence is imprisonment for life or imprisonment of 10 years and fine. The Law Commission in its 42nd report had observed that the sentence for the offence is unduly harsh and quite unrealistic, and that no court would like to sentence a man for life for committing such acts. The courts have also been seen to impose relatively lighter punishment for the offence. With regard to murder coupled with unnatural offence, the courts have consistently held that it would not warrant a death sentence, but rather an imprisonment for life would serve the ends of justice. In State of West Bengal versus Sanjay, the court held that undoubtedly the crime committed by the accused was grave, serious and heinous. He had a dirty and perverted mind and no control over his carnal desire. Nevertheless, it cannot be held that he is such a dangerous person to spare his life would endanger the community and would constitute a continuing threat to the society. Thereby, the court sentenced him to a minimum period of 25 years imprisonment. As regards the evidence in section 377, the mere fact that the accused has the reputation of being a confirmed sodomite is not sufficient for his conviction under this section. There must be distinct evidence of the time when, the place where and the person with whom he committed the offence, and there should be some medical evidence on record. The testimony of the victim is also very significant in these cases. It may be sufficient to hold the accused liable for the offence. There is no rule that there cannot be a conviction on the uncorroborated testimony of the victim. Though corroboration is ordinarily required, it may be dispensed with in exceptional cases, and a conviction based on the uncorroborated testimony of the subject of the offence is not illegal. Now, the constitutionality of section 377 has been questioned. In present times, the entire debate on the section has revolved on issues such as privacy, consent of the parties and sexual orientation. NAS Foundation, a non-governmental organization, filed a public interest litigation challenging the constitutionality of section 377 Indian Penal Code to the extent that the said provision criminalized consensual sexual acts between adults in private. The challenge was founded on the plea that the section, on account of it covering sexual acts between consenting adults in private, infringe the fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 14, 15, 19 and 21 of the Constitution of India. The petitioner submitted that section 377 should apply only to non-consensual penile non-vaginal sex and penile non-vaginal sex involving minors. The Delhi High Court accepted the contention of the petitioner that section 377, insofar as it criminalizes consensual acts of adults, persons above 18 years of age in private, is violative of the articles of the Constitution. This decision, however, came to be challenged subsequently in Suresh Kumar Kaushal and another versus NAS Foundation 2014. The Supreme Court of India, after an elaborate hearing of the arguments of the parties, held that section 377 IPC would apply irrespective of age and consent. Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code does not criminalize a particular people or identity or orientation. It merely identifies certain acts which, if committed, would constitute an offence. Such a prohibition regulates sexual conduct regardless of gender identity and orientation. What section 377 does is merely to define the particular offence and prescribe punishment for the same if the person is found guilty. It does not make any classification amongst people for that matter. Furthermore, a minuscule fraction of the country's population constitute lesbians, gays, bisexuals or transgenders, and in the last more than 150 years, very few prosecutions have taken place under the section. Thus, the allegations of abuse and misuse of the sections may not be taken as true. Furthermore, the right to privacy has been read into the provisions of Article 21 through an expansive reading of right to life and liberty. The scope of the right, as also the permissible limits upon its exercise, have been laid down in several cases. As one of the basic human rights, the right to privacy is not treated as absolute and is subject to such action as may be lawfully taken for the prevention of crime or disorder or protection of health or morals or protection of rights and freedoms of others. Accordingly, the court upheld that section 377 Indian Penal Code does not suffer from the vice of unconstitutionality. Nevertheless, the court opined that the legislature is free to consider the desirability and propriety of deleting the section in future. Thus, the offence of unnatural sexual intercourse is one of colonial origin which intends to punish acts of intercourse against the order of nature, whether consensual or non-consensual. In recent times, the section has come under serious scrutiny and criticism as it offends the freedom of choice and privacy of individuals. People with different sexual orientation have often alleged harassment and discrimination because of the existence of the section in the penal book. Though the Apex Court has declared the section constitutional, the future appears to be garnered towards a change, with non-consensual acts coming within the fold, while leaving aside acts in private between consensual adults. Thank you.